Good afternoon, everyone. So I will give you this presentation of the canvases we have been using to design user interface for explainability. And I am a person from, human-computer interaction. So excuse me if I say stupid things about artificial intelligence in this presentation. In GraphNex, it's an urban project where we work on graph neural networks for explainable artificial intelligence. And in that project, I'm working especially on the interfaces for explainability. So obviously, if you look at the AI side, in the project, we promote graph neural networks as methods to design for providing explanations. So somehow it's really looking at the best methods to extract useful information for explainability. But because you would like to explain things to users, we have also to dig into the user experience disciplines and human-computer interaction to really design interfaces which are enabling people to interact with the explanations, which is about understanding and maybe also providing feedback. So this dimension of caring about the end user is a very important dimension in explainable artificial intelligence. So it's why for designing any solution, we have to look both at the back end, at the methods, and the front end, which are the interfaces, from a user-centered perspective. So I will show you how we are doing that, or we are trying to do that in the project. So we looked at the methodologies and approaches which are available in human-computer interaction to do that in explainable AI in a sensible way. And if I can change my slide, yeah, there. We have seen that the design thinking methodology, which is very often used to design products and solution in user experience, is a very interesting one because it really puts the user at the center. And the general idea behind this design thinking methodology is to first look in the empathize phase at what the end user is expecting from using a specific solution, or what they are actually trying to achieve in a daily activity. And it could be an activity about understanding what AI is providing. So this dimension is really centered on the user and also on the problem to be tackled. And once you understand somehow what the user is trying to achieve, obviously, if you would like to define a solution, you have to really, simplify the problem to be tackled to make sure that you can devise a proper solution to tackle it. So it's why the define phase is also centered on the user, but it's about defining exactly the problem you would like to tackle. And once you understand very well this dimension, then you can start to think about the solution to provide. And for designing the solution, there is 3 typical phases. In that model, there is an ideation, which is like a type of brainstorming session where you investigate all possible solutions to be as creative as possible, to make sure that you explore all the space of opportunities there. And then you start to prototype one or a few of those ideas. And this is where you, after opening as much as possible, you start to restrict to something you can actually achieve with the technology or the resources you have. And finally, you have to test the solution. And this approach can be used for tangible devices, product, services, but in our framework, it's more for information and communication technology at large. So this is the typical design methodology when you want to really center the design on the user. But at that level, it's still a very pretty theoretical methodology. So it's good to find, ways to implement it effectively. And for that, we have seen in most of the design activity that to have a tangible object to co-design a solution is something very useful. And in education psychology, we call that boundary object on which you can focus your design activity. And one boundary object which is very interesting in our framework is the value proposition canvas, which has been introduced first in business to design new products and services. And this canvas is again highlighting pretty much the user at the center. Here we first build a profile of the customers, and sorry, those are terms coming from business. And then once you understand pretty well the customer, then you start to design the product. So it's a bit the same that the approach I mentioned before. So defining the customer job, it's about empathizing with the customer, understanding what they need, and then defining the pains they are facing, and again, they are expecting from a solution is somehow helping to define exactly what you would like to fulfill in terms of expectation of the people. And once this is done well, then you can start with it to define products and services. And when you refine the prototypes, you can find features that are tackling the pains of the user, which are called pain relievers, and then features that are tackling the expected gains, which are called gain creator. So all those dimensions, and typically, for example, the gain, you can classify them from essential to nice to have. The customer jobs, it could be important or to insignificant. And for example, the pain can be extreme or moderate, and also the product, services, gain creator, and pain reliever can be classified from essential to nice to have. This classification of the different components is very nice to help defining the priorities. If you have limited resources to develop a solution, you maybe tackle only the essential and important dimensions, and you neglect the nice to have things. So this means that when you design, you have always to make choices and trade-off between what is expected and what you can achieve. And it's also important to show that graphically in the process. But again, you have the user at the center, and then you derive the solution to fulfill the expectation. For example, what is important in that framework is that you might have a solution which is used by different people. So you might have a value proposition canvas different for different target audience. For example, if I take the case of the Airbnb platform, there is services for the host having an apartment to share with people, or the guests looking for a place to stay. So if we look at the example for host in Airbnb, those are the things that the host would like to achieve. For example, publish an announcement for a free apartment or manage booking and so on. The typical pain such people will have is to manage payment, for example. The gain they can expect is obviously some profitable rentals. And then Airbnb provided services and products to fulfill those expectations. For example, online booking as a solution. As pain reliever, they can verify ID and manage secure payment, which is fulfilling the pains of the user. And as gain creator, they obviously advertise the resources on the planet. So this scheme is very nice to design new solution, but you might feel this is still far away from what you are trying to do in explainable AI. So it's why we decided to adapt that canvas to build a new one that we call the explainability value proposition canvas, and we put a little X in front of it to highlight this dimension. So we held a workshop with the expert from the GraphNex project, both from AI, human computer interaction, and also application domain. And we try to adapt the vocabulary in the canvas to make it, understandable and useful for the community. So if we look, for example, at the customers, we are not trying to sell product, we are trying to sell explanation. So we replace that by end users after round of discussion. We follow a Delphi study approach for that. Then customer job, we translated it in end user expectations because it's not an action to do, but they have some expectation in terms of explainability. The pains are rather some uncertainties you might have about the result provided by the AI, and the gains are rather insights you would like to get from your data. In terms of the products and services, the benefits which are expected are what we call actionable knowledge. And instead of building products and services, in fact, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have to design methods and interfaces to provide proper explanations. Pain relievers are becoming uncertainty reducers, and gain creators are becoming insight creators. So when you design a solution for explainability, we think that using this canvas as a framework to design the solution is a good way to do it. And in GraphNext, we have two application domains, which is privacy protection and system genetics. So we are using that now for designing the interfaces, and we are also applying it for education, and we publish that if you want to refer to it in IEEE education conference for advanced engineering education. So now if I take just an example, I have to be fast due to the time constraint. In privacy management, if you think about an average citizen trying to understand what they disclose in terms of privacy information when they share a picture on social network, we can use this canvas to design the solution. Typically, what the user is expecting is to know if it's safe to post a picture, for example. It's to be able to identify on the picture sensitive content, could be main features of the picture or things in the background. It could be a way to assess the disclosure of personal information for himself or herself, but also for friends, which might be on the picture, also to get feedback before posting. So the uncertainties typically would be, what do I show when I share a picture? Why should I hide if I have to modify the picture before posting it, not to disclose too much? It could be also about the impact of metadata, because with picture, you don't only have the content, but you might have the metadata, which might disclose more information than just the picture itself. Each site would be to understand what people will infer from that image, or also the links that can be done with other images that can be provided. Then from that, you can see in terms of method that you have to extract the privacy related features, and in terms of interfaces, to highlight the core features which are related to privacy, and maybe to provide classification about privacy categories.
Yeah, Dennis, could you please,
I wrap up.
Again,
so just finishing the example. So this is typically what we highlighted based on the canvas, and you have an example of one of the prototype we are developing, where we have a word cloud with where we highlight some keywords related to privacy. So there is also good practices in terms of designing the user interface, putting the source of information, the output of with the explanation, and some settings on the same screen, but I have no time to go through all that. So somehow, as a conclusion for this very short presentation, I think it's very important to take the user into account when we design explainable artificial intelligence solution, and you have to consider what is the target audience. Obviously, the interface will be different if it's an expert or it's average citizen. And we have seen from our experience that this explainability value proposition canvas is a good tool to help you with the design of the solution, which is useful for research, but also for industrial application, as well as to education. Thank you.